morning and happy Saturday. We are in my kitchen this morning and we're talking about a little something different today. So I will give you guys a second to join me, get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, lemon water for me today, and let's talk about fermenting peppers. So during a recent live chat on Facebook, if you don't know already, I go live on Facebook every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Time. And I'm here on YouTube every Saturday at 9 a.m. Central Time. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to join me before I get into all the things fermenting peppers. But I was discussing how I make hot sauces. I love hot sauces. I love all things peppers, so there's that. And so what I do is I make a fermented pepper and then I make a hot sauce out of it. But I also make a couple of different hot sauces. So if you are here, let me know you're here. If you're just joining me for the first time, welcome. For those of you that join me regularly, welcome back. I'm not usually in my kitchen, actually. I'm usually out in the garden doing something with you guys. But today I'm going to talk about specifically fermenting peppers. And going forward, I've already been sharing with you a little bit about preservation. 2026 for us is going to be all about preservation. I'm going to share a ton of great resources for you to preserve your food and also to preserve your seeds. Hayes Garden Path and Agape Field, thanks for joining me. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Now, before I get into specifically information about fermenting and fermenting peppers, I want to share with you a really easy hot sauce that I made the other day. Hey, Linda, thanks for joining us. Now, this is not a fermented pepper hot sauce, so I wanted to make that really clear. A couple weeks ago, I went live here on YouTube and I shared a really simple recipe for making hot sauce. This is not fermented. Hey, Judy, thanks for joining us. This is Tabasco peppers, garlic, salt, vinegar, water. And then I blended it all up in there and I put this in the refrigerator. So this does not sit on the countertop. I wanted to clarify that because I do love this hot sauce, but this is not something that I ferment on my countertop. So what I'm going to share with you today is completely different. But I wanted to share the recipe with you as well. In case you're nervous about fermenting, that's still a really good hot sauce recipe that doesn't require any of this extra stuff. All right, so let's get down to fermenting and the basics, all right? So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure we're using fresh produce. We don't want any bruising. We don't want any pocks of brown spots that shouldn't be there. So I had a couple of peppers that I'm not using for this because they had some bruises on them. We want the cleanest, freshest produce that doesn't have any damage on it, and we want to wash it really well before we use it. So you can see here I've got some massive peppers. These are all cleaned. They have been inspected to make sure there's no bumps, bruises, or any kind of molding on there because we don't want bad bacteria being introduced to our good bacteria. The salt we're going to use is not table salt. Hey, Jenny, thanks for joining us. We are going to be using you can use pickling salt, sea salt, Himalayan salt. I'm using Redmond's real salt. So this is a sea salt, I believe. So you don't want to use table salt. That's just the key to this is don't use table salt. You want to use a non-iodized salt. Next is water. You want to make sure that your water is unchlorinated. So if you are on city water and you've got chlorine in your tap, you want to either filter your water out before you use it, or you can actually take a large, like this is a 4-cup measuring. You can actually put your water in here if it has chlorine in it, and you can let it sit out for a couple hours maybe. I don't know exactly how long it is, and the chlorine will eventually evaporate, and then you can go ahead and use that. I'm using filtered water, and I already have it here in my stock pot. And then there's a couple of extra things that I use that aren't necessary, but they make my life a lot easier. The first one is weights, and I've got one here for you. These are specifically fermenting weights. This will go in my jar over my peppers to make sure that they are completely submerged under the liquid, because you don't want your produce, whatever you're using, today is specifically peppers, you don't want those peppers, I don't have a full jar, and you don't want them exposed to the air. You want them fully submerged in your brine. And I'm going to share with you what brine is in just a minute. And then the last on my list that I need for this is fermenting lids. This one in particular fits on any wide mouth jar. So my husband bought me a set of these years and years and years ago, and I love them so much that I bought another set, because you can never have too many ferments, right? So these are ones, I'm going to share with you what the box looks like. You don't have to buy this. I'm not promoting this as something that you have to use, but it's an easy fermenter lid. Judy says, what material is your fermenting weight made of? Oh, that's a great question. This is glass. I've actually read where people use a rock as their weight. And of course, you want to make sure that you wash your rock first. But I like glass weights because they're very simple. They're very easy to use. It's not porous like plastic would be. And then I can pop these in the dishwasher when I'm done and I don't have to worry about it. Or you can wash them by hand. That's totally fine too. But these are glass. Makes my life a lot easier. And I don't have to worry about my ferments getting funky, because the glass is super easy to use and super easy to clean. So that's a plus. All right. So the weight is an extra thing that you don't necessarily have to have, but I recommend it because it makes it easier. And then the fermenting lid. There are at least 5 different fermenting lids that I've seen being used commonly. This is the one that I like. And the reason I like it is because it has this spot where the gas can come out like super easily, and I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to burp it all the time. And it also has days here. You can't see this, but it has 1 through 31. So you can use this to track when you started it versus when you need to pull it out. And most pepper ferments are going to be 5 weeks. So just to give you an idea, that's why making that hot sauce I shared with you earlier, it was super easy because it's done. I only let it sit in the refrigerator for 24 hours before I start using it on things. Whereas fermenting peppers, this is going to take us 5 weeks. So it's going to take a little more time to make this hot sauce than just your regular run-of-the-mill, throw it in the blender. All right. So we've gone through the ingredients, we've gone through the equipment, and now I'm going to share with you the basic process. So what I've done is I've already prepared my peppers. The reason being is because, hey, Michelle, thanks for joining us. I have to make sure my hands are clean. I have to make sure my work surface is clean. So before I got started on any of this, I washed down my countertop. Obviously, I washed my hands, and then I chopped my veggies, and I put them in clean jars. Now, since then, I've touched my phone, I've touched different things in the kitchen, and my hands may not be as clean as they were before. And if I was doing this and I wasn't live, I wouldn't necessarily be touching my phone. So I wanted to make sure that I've got everything prepped and ready before I got started today during my video. So I washed my produce really, really well, and I chopped it rough chop. So this one in particular is lemon drop peppers. So they're smaller peppers. I removed the top and I cut it in half, and that's all I did. And then these ones are serrano peppers. So these ones look really fun in the jar. I chopped the top off and I sliced it in half and put it in the jar. That's it. You don't have to blend it. You don't have to do a thin chop. You can if you really want to, but this was super easy. When I make my fermented hot sauce, everything goes in the blender anyway, so I don't really worry about chopping it too much. So this basic guide can be used in almost any vegetable that you are fermenting. But specifically today, I'm talking about peppers. And while I'm live and while I'm sharing with you this basic information, please feel free to ask questions if you have any. And if I miss your questions, I'll try and go back and answer them while I'm live. So I also tightly packed the peppers. Now, like I mentioned, I had plenty of serrano peppers, but I didn't have enough of the lemon drop peppers. So I packed it as tightly as possible, but there's still some space. and that's where that's where the stone, not the stone, sorry, the glass weight is going to come in handy. So now I'm going to use my brine. Now, the simplest brine I found, I will say this. If you Google fermented pepper recipes, you're going to find some fun and wild and wacky suggestions. You're going to find some that say, this is the ultimate guide to fermented peppers, and there literally is zero recipe. So I wanted to share with you an actual recipe today, and this information I'm going to put on my website at a later time so that it's there in one place. This is not the ultimate guide to fermented peppers. This is the basic, simple, walk me through it, Mary, and let's get it done. That is how I roll. So I wanted to make sure you had a simple guide that wasn't like all over the place. And you don't need to hear my entire backstory about how my great grandmother used to do it this way and that go off on a tangent on whatever else. So this is bare minimum basic information to help you get started without making you confused, because there's a lot out there where you could easily get confused on getting started. Hey, thanks for joining me, everybody. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So now we're going to go and make our brine. The brine is very simple. It is 2 cups of unchlorinated water and 1 tablespoon of sea salt. Now I heated up my water and I mixed it up really well, and then now it's starting to cool down, which is a good thing. You don't need to use hot brine. It's still warm, so you're good to go. So now once that's done, I'm going to add the brine, okay? So we're gonna get started on that right first with the serrano peppers. Just pour it over till it's completely submerged, which is basically going to be to the very top. And now I'm going to show you there are some peppers floating in the top. So that's where that weight is going to come in handy. Okay, very important. I'm not going to put that weight on there yet because I didn't wash it, and I washed it, but then I touched it with my hands. So I want to re-wash it and make sure before I do it. But if I didn't have anything floating in here, I want to make sure that there's no bubbles. If there were bubbles, I would take a clean spoon or a knife and I would pop those bubbles out or move it around so there's no bubbles. So you see there's no bubbles, we're good? Okay, now I'm gonna put the lid on. First I'm gonna put the weight on, but just for the video, you'll see it. Now, there are several ways you can handle this. You could just simply put it in a cabinet. You could put it on a kitchen counter. If it's easier for you to leave it on a kitchen counter, that's fine. You don't want to have this exposed to heat. So I wouldn't want to put it on my windowsill if it's going to be warm. So that's definitely something you want to do. Is there something wrong? All right, there you go. Hey, Veronica, thanks for joining us. All right, so it is that simple for this one here. Now, you want to burp your jars and check them daily. There are kits that you can get that have a little bubbler on it. The cool thing about this one is it's naturally going to burp itself with this little doohickey. I don't have to actually do anything with it. Let me see the back of it here. Yep. 1, 2, 3. Super easy. It does it for you. I don't actually have to burp this because it will do it itself. If I had a sealed jar, there would be gas that could potentially build up in there, and that's why you burp it. Whereas this little gasket on the top, it naturally burps it itself. Super fun. So once you're done with this, you're going to set it aside and you're going to let it go for 4 to 5 weeks. I recommend waiting for 5 weeks. Now here's a couple things that you want to, that I wanted to address. Hey, Joanne, thanks for joining us. Mold. Bacteria. If your jar starts to get cloudy, that can be normal because the fermentation process is getting started. If a film of mold starts to grow on the top of your ferment, that is not good. You don't want mold. That is a bad bacteria. The good bacteria is going to be growing in here, and that's why I like the jars. Sorry. That's why I like the lids for the jars, because it does it for me naturally and I don't have to handle it and potentially contaminate my ferment. So I do really like this. Now, I did mention already that you don't want any of your veggies exposed to the air inside your jar, and that's why those weights really come in handy. Or just make sure it's crammed in enough so you don't have to worry about it as much. Salt is key. You don't want to reduce the salt in this ferment because that is what's going to help the entire fermenting process. It's what makes it safe. Let's see. Veronica says, will you be posting the name of the lids later? Yes, actually I can tell you now. It's called Easy Fermenter. And like I said earlier, this isn't a promotional video. They don't pay me to recommend this. I just know that this is what I use and it's been easy, simple, and inexpensive. They come in a 4-pack. My husband bought them for me years ago and I just had to have more because I like fermenting. And so watch for spoilage. I don't want to put this aside for 5 weeks and then come back to it 5 weeks later and have mold growing on it. So I'm going to check for mold on a regular basis just by looking at it and seeing what it is. You can take the top off and put the top back on, but I want to make sure it's not exposed to the elements. So I'm not going to put my finger in it, but I will maybe open it. Give it the sniff test if you want. That's always a plus. So just to get started, keep your area clean, glass jars, fermenting lid, weight, and most importantly, use fresh, undamaged vegetables or fruit. You don't want to use any sort of damaged produce, which is why you see here, I've got the best produce I had even in December. So this really should have been a video I did in September, but I didn't really think that you guys I wasn't sure you guys would want to hear about it, but I know that some of my customers have been really enjoying some of the preservation information I've been sharing. So I wanted to share that with you as well. So my weights are glass. My salt is Redmond's Real Salt. Again, not being paid to promote, but those are the simple, easy things. Easy fermenter lids. That's it. Pretty simple stuff. So before I finish for the weekend, does anybody have any questions on this? I know I kind of ran through it fairly quickly. My brine recipe, again, just in case you missed it, is 2 cups of unchlorinated water and 1 tablespoon of sea salt. So I'm going to do this one too while I'm here. While you guys have any questions, you can ask me. Hey, Grim Gardens, thanks for joining us. Says you wanted to figure out fermentation. Very cool. I'm glad you joined me. You guys can always watch the replay. Please consider hitting the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. So I'm going to show this to you before I go. This is these are my peppers. And you can see there's a little bit of a gap here. And then you can see the peppers floating to the top. So this is exactly where the weights will come in handy, because you don't want those peppers exposed to the air in the jar. You want them fully submerged below the surface of your brine. Super, super important. I wanted to point that out to you because my other jar of serrano peppers was nice and packed, whereas this one, there's a little bit of space where it's going to float to the top and you really want it all the way down on the bottom. Joanne says, how do you know when it's ready? So I have found that 5 weeks is the perfect timing for fermenting. If you want to check it earlier, you can definitely check it earlier. I recommend looking at it, smelling it at like the 2-week mark, the 3-week mark. Some people prefer 4 weeks. Some people prefer even longer. After it's only going to get stronger as the weeks go. I actually saw where someone was fermenting for a full year. I have never done a full year. Most of mine have been 5 and 6 weeks. So I don't know. But I will let you know how these go in 4 to 5 weeks. I will try and share with you the outcome of those. I already have my tincture that I made, the goldenrod tincture. That's probably ready by now. I don't know the date on it. I have to go double check, but that's another update I might have for you guys. So fermenting peppers, super easy. I'm trying to make it super simple for you. So it can be a daunting task when you're trying to something new. Fermentation, not everybody is familiar with fermentation, and it's really good for gut health. So try it out. I hope you enjoy it. If you've got any questions and you're watching the replay, you can always send me an email. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com, and I do answer. In the description section of this video, you'll find a link to my comprehensive planting guide, as well as seeds for Mary's Heirloom Seeds, so you can grow these beautiful lemon drop peppers and ferment your own next year. Thanks for joining me, everybody, and happy planting.